Howdy everybody. As you can see, I'm outside. Wow. It was raining a little bit over here. It's been like storming every night, the summer storms that we get around here. But it is very beautiful out today, and I love being outside. So you're out here with me today. Anyways, here's the long-awaited Otherhearted is not Therianthropy Lite video. This is a mostly informational, slightly ranty, but also sharing others' experiences kind of video. So it'll probably be a little bit one of my longer ones because I have quite a lot to say on this topic. So first, let's define some terms. What actually is alter humanity? Quite literally, it's just being a deviation from the normal idea of what human is. So this, most people think that this includes, Therians, otherkin, whatever, but this also does include systems because they are deviating from the normal experience of humanity. And that's also why people who are just humans are called ortho-humans. Ortho being usual, regular, the same. Now, the main topic of the video, what is Otherhearted? Otherhearted is most commonly described like by using this little comparison between Therianthropy. If Therianthropy is identifying as an animal, Otherheartedness is identifying with an animal. And then of course, identifying with a concept, an object, a fictional character, all of those. So, people who are Otherhearted are not necessarily non-human, but they are alter-human. And while this video uses the Otherhearted label in the title, and also includes Otherhearted experiences from the two individuals that I asked about these, it is mostly just about any human, alter-human identities, and how they are seen, how they are treated as less serious than non-human, alter-human identities. Because alter-human and non-human are not synonymous. So, what might some other human identifying alter-human identities be? This can also include fiction-kin who identify as fully human characters. This can also be systems. Some systems do have non-human components, like non-human alters, but quite a few have all of their alters being human. The reason why I'm most talking about otherheartedness in this video, however, is just because it seems to be the most common human identifying alter-human identity. The thing is, being otherhearted, having that connection, is just as impactful to somebody's life as being non-human. It's just as important to them and their development and their, mental and physical well-being. It's just as important to their view of the world. Just because someone's identity is not non-human, is not identifying as, does not mean that it is less serious, less valid, or less impactful. I think that just ties in general to this odd trend that I see, at least on Tumblr, where being the most non-human is seen as the most valid, the most serious. This has also been talked about quite a lot recently on Tumblr, about the language shift between Therian and Holother. Holother being a Therian who identifies fully and fundamentally as an animal in every way possible. I've seen some physical Therians come out being like, hey, I don't know if I'm a physical Therian because I thought that I thought that it was just a more serious way of identifying as a Therian. And I think this is, relating to the larger influx of Therians coming from places like TikTok and even here on YouTube, where it's, younger kids who might not fully understand what this identity actually means, who might just be otherhearted, who might be just otherpaw. Except for, that's the language that we can't be using. Just. Those kids are not just otherhearted. They might be otherhearted for sure, but we can't use language like that to downplay the seriousness of an otherhearted identity. Language is important, especially, in English, which most of the community is in, because English has so many damn words. There is a word for everything, they say. So then the language we use has even more impact because there is much more like slight differences between different terms. It's okay if you're not a clinical zoanthrope, you're still valid. It's okay if you're not a holothere, you're still valid. It's okay if you're not a Therian at all, you're still valid. And it's also okay if you're not otherhearted, still valid. There absolutely is a term for you, there is a community for you, but in the larger sense, we are all our own community. Just because we have some differences between our experiences, even within the same label, does not mean that we cannot be there for each other, that we can't support each other, that we can't lift each other up. We're ultimately a small community. So it's of utmost importance that we all work really hard to be there for each other. I know we have quite a bit of input in the community about many different issues, of which I'll talk about more in other videos. Now, what I want to do is do kind of what I did in my Life of a Dragon series, where I did a little speed paint video layered over with a voiceover of me saying something from my journal. This time, however, I want it to be your experiences. I reached out to 2 individuals and got little little written pieces by them on their experience being otherhearted and what it means to them. So I'll go ahead and share those now. Alright, this is an excerpt from one of my mutuals on Tumblr who helped me discover my own alter humanity, Talon Dragon Beast. Voice very cool, and this is just a little excerpt, you know, describing how Void found Void's heart types. Alrighty. Its first section is how I discovered their heart types. I have always loved crows more than any other animal. I felt drawn towards them. I related so much to them, my heart seemed to flutter anytime I saw them in the wild. When I was first questioning my non-humanity circa 2022, crows were the first thing that came to mind. Why wouldn't they? They were extremely important to me, so the connection was undeniably there. Not to mention the phantom limbs I experienced. Wings, talons, and feathers, although faint and frequent, were clearly there too. So I called myself a crow hybrid, and I told myself that was that. It wasn't soon after I discovered my dragon kin type though, and with that came another wave of questioning. Was I really a crow, or did I just like them? Calling myself a crow didn't feel as right as it had at first, now that I knew I was a dragon. But then I came across a new term I hadn't heard before, Otherhearted. Strongly identifying with, but not as, a non-human being, character, or concept. It was perfect. That was me. And so I called myself Crow-Hearted, which eventually expanded into Corvid-Hearted, as I discovered other Corvids that evoked the same feeling in me as crows did. More than a year later, on a random Tuesday morning, I started pondering my connection to space more deeply. Space has been my special interest ever since I could remember. I was looking at the stars even before I was able to form words, and it has always evoked some very strong feelings inside me. I knew space was a part of me in some way, but I didn't know how exactly. Did I identify with it, or did it feel like it was my home? In other words, was space a heart type or a heart home? In the end, as many things do, basically came down to personal preference. I decided on the Otherhearted label, and nothing has proved me wrong since, so I kept it. And that was that. Very anticlimactic, I know. Okay. Dre's next section is what Otherhearted means to me. My 2 heart types are very different from each other, but they both encompass the Otherhearted experience in their own way. They both evoke very deep, intense feelings, and it is often difficult to put into words just how important they are to me. It's a similar experience to having a kin type, but also so different the 2 couldn't even begin to compare. Being Corvid-Hearted to me means being part of the Corvidae family, like Corvus Corax or Pika Pika are. I don't identify with all the members of that family, rather just a select few whom I consider to be closer to my own identity. I see myself in them the same way with a family member. I feel an ache in my chest when I think about them. When I wake up in the morning and hear the crow calls outside my window, I feel like everything is right at that moment. When I'm walking and see a group of magpies pecking at the ground with their beaks, I feel warmth inside me. Corvids are very dear to me. We are similar as we are different, and I would not be the same person. If I didn't have them. Yet, I'm not a crow, or a raven, or a magpie. If I woke up tomorrow a Corvid, I would feel truly happy, but not like myself. I'm Corvid-Hearted. I am not a Corvid. Being space-hearted feels very different. It's not a sense of familiarity, but wholeness. Space makes me who I am. It is as much a part of my identity as my name is. When I learn about space, I feel at home, as if I'm learning about myself. It's a very scientific connection, if that makes sense. We are all made of stars. The iron that makes up our blood originates from the core of burning supernovae.
Our organic molecules arrived here from the surface of asteroids that hit the Earth. The amino acids from our proteins formed with the creation of our planet. All hydrogen atoms that make up water inside our cells were created within the first 5 minutes of the Big Bang. I could go on, but to put it simply, I am space, and space makes me who I am. Literally. Okay, the boys' next section is how my heart types affect my day-to-day life. Being other-hearted is a bit more passive than being otherkin. I don't experience memories, instincts, or behavioral shifts from my heart types like I do with my kin types. There is one exception: cameo shifts. Cameo shifts are shifts that don't relate to any known kin type. It can be of any kind: mental, phantom, dream, physical, envisage. Specifically, I experience phantom cameo shifts from my Corbid heart type. I may get phantom wings on my back or arms, talons on my feet, feathers on my back, or, very rarely, a beak. They are very brief, and as far as I can tell, don't follow any known pattern, nor are they triggered by anything in particular. They just happen. I don't get any kind of shifts from my space heart type, though. Maybe because it's a bit more of an abstract concept. It's worth noting that I do tend to get stronger feelings from space than from Corbids, so I'd say they both have an equal impact on my life. My heart types are so important to my sense of identity that if you somehow manage to remove them from myself, I wouldn't be me anymore. Sure, I would answer the same name, and my external spirits would remain unchanged, but the most relevant part of myself, what someone called my soul, would be gone. Thank you so much for sharing. It's so cool to hear about them. And I hope my trouble speaking does not completely muddle your passage.
Anyways, thank you so much for showing up, for sticking through the video, for opening your mind to different experiences, and hopefully to learning a little bit more about otherheartedness. And if you hadn't already, seeing how beautiful it is and how impactful truly is such a wonderful, incredible experience. And if you're otherhearted watching this video, let us know down in the comments what your heart type is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.